What's going on, folks? Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy CJ from the Gunners Corner, and we're back. We are back with another pre-match preview. Um, as I've mentioned now a couple times on a couple of occasions over the last couple of days, the new segment of our channel is going to be incorporating pre-match preview as well as post-game player ratings. So stick around, as I will be giving you a little bit of what I believe will be a predicted 11 for this game against Wigan tomorrow in the FA Cup, and post-game player ratings will follow after that. Um, but without further ado, again, we are playing Wigan in the FA Cup, fourth round, I believe. Um, Now, this game is going to be interesting, because one, it's nice and timely, with regards to a little bit of a break, distraction from the Premier League. Every Premier League game at the moment is coming with its intensity, with its um, challenges, with its nerves, because we know what's on the line and what's at stake in the Premier League. But the FA Cup can be a nice little distraction. We've been playing better in the cup competition this season, so I think, especially with the opposition, with all due respect to Wigan, this poses an opportunity for us to progress to the next stage and go, on another front and go on another competition. We're still currently in all four at the moment. Your League Cup final, Premier League top of the league, group stage leaders in the Champions League, and in the FA Cup still. So a home tie to Wigan should pose an opportunity for us to progress, so to speak, to the next round. Um, Now, without further ado, I want to get to the starting lineup in my predicted 11 right away because this is going to be fascinating. I'm kind of curious to know, what Mr. Mikel Arteta is going to go with, because there are certain injury situations to contend with. I mean, we know Marino and Kai Havertz are more long-term absentees. Um, Odegaard came off limping from the last match against Brentford the other day at the G-Tech Community Stadium. And well, he didn't come off Odegaard. He played the whole second half and carried on after the injury. But he was apparently limping through the mix zone after the game, so that's something to take into consideration. And Mikel Arteta was asked about Ethan Nwaneri in the press conference, and he was asked, about the fact that whether it was a mistake, or you regret now letting him go on loan, considering some of the injuries we have in that area, right? When it comes to the likes of Kai Havertz and Marino, and one of the things that Mikel Arteta said, well, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but he pretty much said in the press conference ahead of this one, he said, no real regrets. It's easy to go back and say now, when Yeri shouldn't have gone on loan. Um, but he wasn't to know that Marino was going to be out for 5 months, and Arteta did say 5 months. We don't know if that's exact. Um, but I guess, that's Arteta prepping for the worst case scenario. But, he did pretty much mention that, we didn't plan, you don't plan for these things when you send Ethan Nwaneri out on loan. You don't plan for a Kai Havertz injury setback. You don't plan for Marino being out long term, so on and so forth. So we're a little bit unlucky in that sense. But Ethan needed to do it for his development, essentially. He's a young player, right? At his age, he is his tender age. He needs to play. He needs to get the minutes under his legs. And I fully agree and support the decision to let Ethan go on loan. Yes, maybe now we could use him. Like definitely, if he was here, he'd probably start in a game like tomorrow. Um, but it is what it is. We weren't to know that. Hindsight is a wonderful thing. And I support the decision, to be honest, to let Ethan go on loan. He was the one player in the squad that we could afford to go on loan, and I think still be okay. So it's unfortunate that we have a couple attacking midfielders who are on the sidelines at the moment, but we're just gonna have to carry on. We should just really kind of see for what it is, and then and move on from it. So, anyways, um, going into the predicted 11s, Kepa in goal, right? That's what I think we're gonna have to go with. Kepa in goal, and what we should go with. Kepa deserves another game. He's more than able to step into this game and perform. He's also playing for a cup final place potentially. The League Cup final, right? Is Kepa Arrizabalaga. So, he's going to want to put in another performance in this one to show that he's worthy to continue and start in the League Cup final against Manchester City next month. At right back, Ben White. I think Ben White, at least in my predicted 11 and what I think Arteta is going to go with, surely Ben White comes back in for this one. Timber didn't have the greatest game at the G-Tech Community Stadium. And, I do believe that Urian Timber does deserve a rest and needs a rest. And surely, Ben White, if he can't play in this game, then when is he ever going to play? I think Ben White should have been used a little bit more over the last couple of weeks in the Premier League game. Likes of Sunderland at home and even Brentford. Ben White is a quality player. We know this. He's been in title run-ins with us before. He's a 50 million pound center back or defender. So surely he could come in and have done a job in the Premier League more than he has done so far. But nonetheless, he definitely comes in for this game against Wigan. Your center backs, William Saliba was pictured back in training. And I'm saying this on February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone, by the way. February 14th, there were training pictures that came out online from the Arsenal account showing William Saliba back in training after he's been ill. And so let's see if Arteta uses this to give him some match sharpness and match fitness because he missed out at Brentford. I personally would rest him. Um, but again, this is based on a predicted 11 that I think Arteta could go with. So I think, I was going to say I think he'll play Saliba, but Christian Mascara should definitely deserves to play as well. I'm going to say we're leaving Saliba out of this. Maybe Saliba on the bench. Christian Mascara should play that right center back slot. He had a good enough performance against Brentford on the weekend. Sorry, midweek on Thursday. Did Christian Mascara, and he should keep his place for this game. It's a game I feel like he would have played anyways. So I think Christian Mascara should continue in there and get some more minutes in his legs. Important squad player. And beside him, I'm gonna go with Calafiori. You know what? I say this now. Let me backtrack. Let me backtrack because I think that there's a certain player at left back who we're gonna talk about who I think should be used in midfield, considering our options or lack thereof. So let me backtrack and say that William Saliba plays center back with Christian Mascara. I say this again. This is what Mikel Arteta I think would do. I'm also going to try and manifest it and say this is what he should do as well, right? So he should do this as well as what I think he will do, and let's try and put the two together. Saliba will play center back alongside Christian Mascara, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Okay. Originally, I said Miles Lewis-Skelly was going to play left back. I scratched that now. And this is due to shortage of options in another area, and we'll get there. So left back, I think, will be Ricardo Calafiori. He needs more minutes under his legs after coming back from an injury. He's been rusty in the last few Premier League games that he's come on as Calafiori, and I think this poses a good opportunity for him to get some minutes in his legs. Now, in midfield, Christian Norgard, another one like Ben White, who I think needs, should have been playing more minutes and should be trusted a little bit more in the Premier League, especially when we're up against it, holding a lead back against the wall. Zubimendi looks a little bit tired at the moment. Certainly in the last game, Zubimendi didn't have the greatest game at Brentford. The game kind of passed him by. Christian Norgard should be seeing more minutes, I think. That's one of your squad players. Mikel Arteta, you should trust him. Definitely. So Christian Norgard, sorry, comes back into midfield. Christian Norgard. I don't know if I said Christian Mascara. I apologize, but Christian Norgard certainly should come in to midfield and should be trusted more. He hasn't been trusted a lot in the Premier League games, as I mentioned, and certainly um, in the FA Cup, Christian Norgard is more than able to come in against Wigan at home and do the job and slot in there to give Zubimendi a much needed break. So Christian Norgard comes in and plays number six in the number six role for me. Um, Left eight, Eberechi Eze. Eberechi Eze should play in that left eight role, basically Declan Rice's replacement. And Ebbs needs a big game, man, because he's been underwhelming over the last little bit. It's not happening for him at the moment. Um, that man needs a good game in this one. And again, what better game at the Emirates, Wigan at home in the FA Cup? You surely, as they can put in a performance that gives us a little bit more confidence and gives Arteta a little bit more confidence to want to use him in our Premier League games going forward and in the cup final that we have coming up and so on. Eze needs to perform, man. It's getting a little bit concerning if I'm being honest. We need him. We know he's a quality player and he's just got to step up. He's got to fancy himself and back himself and go again. So Eze starts in that left eight role. Um, right eight. Again, I'm second guessing myself in terms of left eight versus right eight. Let me tell you one thing. Miles Lewis-Skelly. Miles Lewis-Skelly, I think, should play a midfield in this game. And I think he should play a midfield because um, one, we're short in midfield options at the moment. I don't want to see as Mendy or Rice. They shouldn't be anywhere near this game. The two of them should be playing, or resting at home at the moment. We don't need Rice. We don't need um, Zubimendi. The way we overplay them in the Premier League, they deserve to be rested, put their feet up for this one, and we're going to need them. We have a big week coming up. We have Wolves in midweek and then the North London Derby the next weekend. So, um, Miles Lewis-Skelly, let's see what he can do in midfield finally. For a long time, we've been calling for him to play there. We want to see him there. It took him a long time to do that with Zinchenko, playing a midfielder at left back. And finally, we played, Arteta finally played Zinchenko towards the end of his Arsenal career in midfield. We saw it one time in the Champions League, and Zinchenko scored in that game, funny enough. So why not finally do the same with Miles, another converted midfielder into left back. But for this game, surely you put Miles back in midfield, especially with the lack of options that we have at the moment. Miles Lewis-Skelly should go in midfield. Um, with Eze to accompany Christian Norgard. That's my midfield three. And now let me just kind of swap around what I said. So Christian Norgard should hold the number six role. Eze plays the right eight. Miles Lewis Skelly will play the left eight naturally. Being a left-footed player, left-sided player, swap Miles Lewis Skelly and Eze around. Eze will kind of come into that right 10, right eight position with Miles Lewis Skelly left eight. I hope to see that, right? And this is just again based on options and shortage or lack thereof. And I hope Arteta gets creative and we get to finally see Miles Lewis Skelly in midfield. If you can't do it in this game, when are you going to do it? Um, Up front, the front three, Gabriel Jesus starts center forward for me. I think that goes without saying. He wasn't used last game when he probably could have and should have been used off the bench when we had that fifth spare sub to use. So, Gabriel Jesus center forward, I think that one is pretty straightforward. Left wing, Martinelli. Gabriel Martinelli didn't start last game in the Premier League. So maybe you start him in this one, or definitely you start him in this one. Gabriel Martinelli, if Arteta is going to be rotating the squad accordingly, it's the natural next one up. If it's not Trossard on the left wing, it's Gabriel Martinelli, who has done well in the cups so far overall this season. So Gabriel Martinelli on the left. On the right, a couple things for you. Bukayo Saka, knowing Arteta the way I think I may do, because Saka is getting back up to speed and not fully fit, as we saw last game against Brentford, Saka should maybe start to get some minutes in his legs. And I say should start. This is purely based on what I think Arteta's going to do and how he would justify it. Is Saka needs minutes ahead of a big week. Maybe he'll start Saka, play him 50 minutes, 60 minutes, 45 minutes, excuse me, and then get him off early in the second half if, obviously if we're winning and the game is going accordingly. But I can definitely see Saka starting this one for those reasons, just to get some minutes under his legs. The other interesting one, if Saka doesn't start, would be Max Dowman. Now, Max Dowman has been pictured back in training, um, and which is great to see, right? That's our young superstar in the making. So you want to see him back involved. Obviously, we're hoping the injury is not going to stunt his development too much because he's missed a few months out of the game with that injury. But hopefully we get him back fit and get him in the squad. If he's not going to start, get him on the bench, and I at least hope he comes on to see some minutes in this game. It'll really help us out a lot. So Max Dowman on the bench for me, but Saka probably will start on that right wing. Um, Another couple things to quickly notice or mention and make note of, Salmon, Marley Salmon, I think is the name of the young boy or young defender that we have coming out of the academy who's been in training with the first team in and around. He was pictured in training as well today, so surely he'll be in the squad and maybe he gets some minutes if Saliba needs to come off at any point, and so on and so forth. So that's it, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. There you have it. That is our predicted 11 for the game. Let's see how right or wrong I am. Pretty sure I'll come somewhat close to that based on how Arteta will rotate the squad, but let's see. I did predict on the podcast with the boys that we did on the Thursday's recording. Friday morning it came out. I did predict with the boys, Laurent and Merdad, that Arsenal would win the game. I'm pretty sure we all predicted that, so don't see any other result happening. I could be wrong. I hope I'm not wrong. Let's knock on wood, but we need to go again in another competition, get more wins under our belt, and we move. So um, there you have it, and we'll be back. Tomorrow is Sunday the 15th, so there will be another podcast episode out with the lads that we'll be recording tomorrow evening, and we keep rolling on into another big and busy week. So that is the pre-match preview, predicted 11 for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy the game, and let's hope for another Arsenal win and no injuries, most importantly. And then we go from there. Please continue to like and subscribe to the channel. It really, really, really does help us. Like, subscribe, share, keep the notification bell on so that you guys never get to miss any shows or content that we're putting out at the moment. We're really trying to take off and expand with what we're doing and more exciting things along the way for you guys. Okay. So stay locked in here with us at the Gunner's Corner. This has been CJ, and we are out. Take care. Bye bye.